Jefferson Davis's right-hand man, you had in him a brilliant mind and a practical mind, who's, how can we achieve our independence? How can we win this war?
In the early months of 1861, the passionate debate about slavery in the United States is reaching a fever pitch. Jews on both sides of the Mason-Dixon line are forced to take sides in a conflict that threatens to tear the country apart.
You have the tension. On the one hand, these are my enemies. On the other hand, they're my fellow Jews.
Major Alfred Mordecai Sr. of North Carolina graduates West Point at the head of his class and is the top gunpowder authority at the U.S. Ordnance Department. He is faced with an agonizing decision. He opposes slavery and is married to a Northerner, but his family is from the South. His sister begs him to fight for the Confederacy.
You should come where you are not only desired, but needed in directing the military affairs of your native state. All eyes of the South are turned toward you. Your ever affectionate, anxious sister, Ellen.
In order to keep from fighting against his family, Major Mordecai requests a transfer to a Union Army posted far off California. His request is denied.
Both armies wanted to give him a commission. He refused to fight for either side. He just couldn't bring himself to do it.
I have taken the only course left to me to avoid this issue by resigning my commission in the Army and retiring to private life. Alfred Mordecai.
The difficult decision of which side to support also affects a well-respected Jewish attorney from Quincy, Illinois, named Abraham Jonas. In the 1850s, Jonas befriends Abraham Lincoln and becomes one of his foremost supporters in his campaign for the presidency. Jonas even warns Lincoln of a brewing assassination plot prior to his inauguration.
There is perfect organization, and it is their determination to prevent the inauguration, and if by no other means, by using violence. I am truly yours, Abraham Jonas.
People were fearful that any anti-slavery person would be struck down either before he became president or while he was being sworn in. And there were lots of fears from his friends about that.
Despite his deep connection to Lincoln and the Union, Jonas also has ties to the South, having spent nearly a decade as an elected politician in Kentucky. His family is also split. 5 sons will fight for the Confederate forces, while 1 will enlist for the Union. Even for recent immigrants, loyalties divide families. In 1848, Leopold Karples leaves Prague, bound for Galveston, Texas. There he will reunite with his brother. As they grow up in Texas during the 1850s, Leopold and his brother Emil strongly disagree on slavery. Leopold becomes a Texas Ranger and helps slaves to escape to Mexico. He soon migrates to Massachusetts and volunteers for the Union, but his brother decides to fight for the Confederacy. By early 1861, war drums are beating loudly. It is only a matter of time before an incident will trigger a larger confrontation. Fort Sumter, South Carolina, a seemingly impregnable federal fortress in Charleston Harbor.
Lincoln sent a ship down to either reinforce Fort Sumter, where there was a small band of Union troops, or to basically bring food to starving men, as he said. But the South viewed that as an act of aggression.
April 12th, 1861, the Confederates begin a massive bombardment of Fort Sumter. Lieutenant Lieutenant Jacob Valentine, a Confederate Jew from Charleston, commands one of the main artillery batteries on nearby Sullivan's Island that shells Union positions. After 36 hours of intense fire, Major Robert Anderson surrenders Fort Sumter to Confederate forces. The first battle of the Civil War brings victory to the South.
So that's the first place that blood is shed, guns are fired, are fighting anger, and then the Confederate flag is raised over a United States fort. That is the watershed event.
After the battle, President Lincoln is forced to take action.
What made Lincoln Lincoln is that he could be pushed around only so long, and then at some point he had to take a stand and say, hold it.
On April 15th, 1861, President Lincoln proclaims war.
I, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, in virtue of the power in me vested by the Constitution and the laws, hereby do call forth the militia of the several states of the Union.
Desperate calls go out in the North for volunteers. American Jews respond. In Chicago, an all-Jewish company, the Concordia Guard, is formed quickly in a moving display of Union loyalty. Over a 2-day period, they raise $11,000 to outfit and arm 96 soldiers to serve in the 82nd Illinois Infantry.
That was a magnificent accomplishment, and they showed and demonstrated to the Chicago community and the Union in general their intense patriotism.
In neighboring Indiana, Frederick Neffler is just one of 10,000 Jewish men who volunteer to fight in the Civil War. Just 2 months after joining the 11th Indiana Infantry, he is promoted to captain. Later, Neffler will become the highest-ranking Jew in the Civil War. Jews in the South also rise to prominent positions. In Mobile, Alabama, a German immigrant named Adolf Proskauer has found prosperity as a merchant in the United States shortly after his arrival in 1848.
Adolf had been made to feel more welcome in Mobile than he had felt anywhere else in his life up to that point. So when the war came, he felt he had an obligation to repay that welcoming.
Adolf Proskauer joins the Army at a low rank and is promoted up the ranks of captain, eventually to major, which is a pretty big deal.
Proskauer's rise to the ranks of the 12th Alabama Infantry of the Confederate Army isn't without its roadblocks. With each promotion, Proskauer finds greater resistance from anti-Semitic superiors.
They examined him in every possible and conceivable drill that an officer would have to undertake, way over the top of what they normally would have asked of someone, and he passed with flying colors. And the head of the examining board said afterwards that Proskauer clearly knew drill better than anyone on the examining board, and indeed he got the promotion.
I was just bad at taking.
Here I am again, my brilliant YouTube professionals. We are ready for another divine session. You know that planet Earth has some of the most beautiful angelic humans in this universe, being subjugated by fourth dimensional aliens and their super rich cannibal allies, offsprings, which number in the millions, coming out of Western devilization. These allies to the monster aliens are beginning to look like their monster creators, playing the clandestine game and being the hidden hand pulling the puppet strings. Spaceship flying humans are known as angelic humans because angels are fleets of spacecraft, while archangels like Gabriel, Michael Haniel, Raphael, Zedekiel, and the other L's are merely symbolic names for motherships as fleets. The alien Hebrews from Nibiru, whose nucleus is the Anunnaki aliens of Nibiru, where their demonic creator Jehovah operates as a low-level backroom office clerk. These Hebrews sold their lies to the Roman Catholic Church, and the same lies were sold to the Greek king Ptolemy in 321 BC. There is no such thing as a God the Father, the one and only God, because there are lies coming out of their arrogant ignorance, not knowing that the term God comes in stacks of zillions to the zillionth square. The only one and only is Prime Creator, who itself creates gods and has no designation itself and can never be known except for pure benevolent consciousness. These Hebrews are Templars, or the original fallen angel crowd, which is the creation, demonic, warmongering, low-level consciousness, simply as the Ku Klux Klan, playing the science of clonics against the ignorant masses, or the visual images of getting across an idea. False ideas today are backed by the illusion of money and governed by war, destruction, and a mountain of lies. These Zeta Reticulan Greys, who did the genetic engineering to move the Caucasian Aryan stock up from their Neanderthal gorilla stage by some 65 genetic alterations to their present look, has some awesome abilities, as the Western scientists soon found out. But a little too late, however. Now the Greys control the Western scientists and the U.S. military-industrial complex and their underground facilities, as they apply the U.S. with its old technology, and the U.S. in turn sells its old technology to the lesser-equipped nations for their resources, principally their poppies, which the CIA turns into deadly drugs for their marketplace. So, welcome to New World Order, as the power elite exterminates its have-nots into the machine world monster of Moloch hidden on the American $1 bill. This Zeta Reticulan Grey the U.S. has in captivity has been worn out by these American scientists doing their experiments on him, keeping him up day after day like these heartless motherfuckers do. So he is wiped completely out. The public